Whatever happened to Norm Evans? Hi, I'm Ralph Drollinger. For 10 years, Norm Evans made his living in the trenches for the Miami Dolphins. Described as a consummate offensive lineman, he was all concentration, dedication, and determination. Norm holds the Dolphin team record for playing in 138 games between 1966 and 1976. He shared in the victory of 2 Super Bowl championships, earned the privilege to play in 2 Pro Bowls, and was named Dolphin Unsung Hero in 1970. In 1976, the Seattle Seahawks, as an expansion team, drafted Norm from the Dolphins. He played with them until his retirement in 1979. Today, Norm lives with his family in a suburb of Seattle. He is still involved with football, interviewing coaches and players on post-game radio shows during football season, and year-round, he is giving leadership to Pro Athletes Outreach as president and director of public relations.
A pro athlete lives really in the fast track. A young person normally, but with probably an income level of, say, someone that's far advanced in years compared to them. And because of that, and the limelight, and the stress of being in pro athletics, you find individuals that really have a tough time and they have to struggle with values. Pro athletes are used to having to be held accountable for every single action on the field. And it's difficult for people who don't experience team sports to understand, and especially on the professional level, how much pressure there really is on to performance and how desperately you want to perform well, because the name of the game is to be a champion. Pro football is really a game of intimidation. And often what happens is you try to establish that intimidation. The Miami Dolphins used to intimidate the opponent's defense. We were out there and we're going to run that football right at you. Look out, big guy, here we come. On the field of play during the game is probably the time that players most have difficulty relating to an individual across from them. Learning to deal with all of this explosive emotion, if you will, this intimidation, and not only controlling it when it comes at you, but controlling it when it goes out from you. Probably the most important thing that ever happened to me was when my life was literally invaded by Jesus Christ. That was a vital turning point in every area of my life. For example, you begin to realize that you're not out there playing for dollars. You're not out there playing because the fans cheer, the coach says, get out there and get them. You're performing because you're trying to use the ability that God's given you so that He gets honor for it.
Norm was part of a group that was organized to encourage Christian pro athletes. They called the organization Pro Athletes Outreach.
We started training players in what it meant to be a Christian. In other words, so how does your life match up to what you're saying? Another thing that Pro Athletes Outreach wants to do is to utilize the platform that athletes have. And if guys are living and talking about their faith and what a difference it makes, hopefully others will see what a difference it can make. We feel like if a pro is not doing well at home, he's not going to be doing well at all.
I think one of the needs that PAO is meeting with the wives is giving the wife an idea of who she is, a sense of identity apart from being Mrs. So-and-so. So we spend time with the wives talking about self-image, and God has given you intuition and feelings, and it's important that you express those things.
One of the things that Bobbie and I have tried to learn, and we've learned from these teachers, is how to better communicate. Part of what we started doing was we started dating each other. And started communicating about things that I felt really threatened about. I get kind of scared going against Bubba Smith or some of these guys, and so as a result, we began to develop real, honest communications, a willingness to express ourselves and to be vulnerable to each other.
People think it must be romantic to be married to such a big, strong, muscular, handsome man. And I remember for weeks Norm sleeping in traction upside down in our bed. You know, I was at the head of the bed and he's attached to this machine and sleeping upside down on the other end of the bed.
The Dolphin offensive line was made up of a bunch of renegades led by Coach Monty Clark.
Larry Little had been traded for a little-known defensive back from the San Diego Chargers. Jim Langer was picked up off waivers. Bob Kuchenberg picked up off waivers. Wayne Moore had been a basketball player in junior college. And here we were, a bunch of guys, and Monty Clark had to mold us into an offensive line. And he started the very first day saying, guys, I want to tell you what, you're going to be the best in the business. When the years came along like the perfect season, we developed a name called the Mushrooms. And the reason we did that, we said, we've got to be mushrooms because all they do is keep us in the dark and feed us manure. So we felt like we had to be mushrooms. In 14 years in the NFL, I guess you could say you learn a lot of lessons. It's important that you learn to use your ability to the maximum, that you give everything you have so that you walk off the field knowing that you've done the absolute best you can do. And that's true in any walk of life. If you can ever learn that, then you walk out of there knowing that you've used the ability God's given you to the maximum. I'd like to be remembered as a guy who, as an athlete, who loved the game and played it to the maximum. I'd like to be remembered as an individual who loved God and who loved living.